All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to part 8 of the log of the Sea of Cortez. This I should have titled the melatonin stream because I am trying to fix my sleep schedule as I start work officially a week from today. And I will have to be waking up extremely early, or at least early to my standards, considering I have been going to bed at basically 4 o'clock every night since I got officially hired. And since this is like a real job, I can't be like not present. So yeah, I popped a melatonin, gonna read. Hopefully it makes me tired because last time I tried going to bed early, I couldn't, and I stayed up till 6 o'clock. So we will see how this goes. I'm really hoping for the best here. I wish my body would get tired earlier. Yeah. I mean, it did get tired earlier today, but it was like 5 o'clock. So let's just get to it. Let's just fucking get crazy here. Okay. Dentallums of two species, the first we had found. These animals, which look like slender, curved teeth, belong to a small class of mollusks, little known, popularly called tooth shells. On the shallow bottom, attached to very small stones, we found little anemones of three types. There are also sand anemones in long, filthy, gray-looking cases when they are dug out, but when they are embedded in the bottom and expanded, they looked like lovely red and purple flowers. A great number of small black cucumbers of a type we had not taken crawled on the bottom, as well as one larger pepper and salt cucumber. We found many heart urchins, two species of ordinary brittle stars, and one burrowing orpharin. Sponges and tunicates were fastened to the insecure footing of small stones, but since there is probably very little churning of water on the tide flats, they were safe enough. There were flatworms of several species, stinging worms, peanut worms, icranoid worms, and what in the collecting notes are listed rather tiredly as worms. We took one specimen of the sea whip, a rather a spectacular colony of animals looking exactly like a long white whip. The lower portion is a horny stalk, and the upper part consists of zooids carrying on their own life processes but connected by a series of canals which unite their body cavities with the main stalk. As the tide came up, we moved upward in the intertidal toward the mangrove trees, and the foul smell of them reached us. They were in bloom, and the sharp, sweet smell of their flowers, combined with the filthy odor of the mud about their roots, was sickening. But they were fascinating to look into. Huge hermit crabs seemed to live among their silted roots, and black mud, product of the root masses, swarms as a meeting place for land and sea animals. Flies and insects in great numbers crawl and buzz about the mud, and the scavenging hermit crabs steal secretly in and out and even climb into the high roots. We suppose it is the combination of foul odor and the impenetrable quality of the mangrove roots, which gives one a feeling of dislike for the salt water eating bushes. We sat quietly and watched the moving life in the forest of the roots, and it seemed to us that they were stealthily murder everywhere. On the surf-swept rocket, it was fierce and hungry and joyous killing, committed with energy and ferocity. But here it was like stalking, quiet murder. The root gave off clicking sounds, and the odor was disgusting. Um, we felt that we felt that we were watching something horrible. No one likes the mangroves. Raoul said that in the La Paz, no one loved them at all. On the level flats, the tide covers the area very quickly. We waded out to a wrecked boat lying turned over in the sand and took a number of barnacles from the rotten wood and even from the rusted engine. It was a good, rich collecting day, and it had been curiously emotional day, beginning with the church. Sometimes one has a feeling of fullness, of warm wholeness, wherein every sight and object and odor and experience seems to key in gigantic whole. That day, even the mangrove was a part of it. Perhaps among primitive peoples, the human sacrifice has the same effect, creating a wholeness of sense and emotion, the good and the bad, beautiful and ugly, and cruel, all wielded into one thing. Perhaps a whole man needs this balance. And we had as excited at finding the tenulums as they had been nuggets of gold. Rule had a La Paz harpoon in his canoe, and we bought it from him, hoping to bring it home. It was a shaft of iron with a ring on one end on the line and a point of hinged barb on the other. A little circle of cord holds the barb against the shaft until the friction of flesh of the victim pushes the cord free and allows the barb to open out inside the flesh. We wanted to keep this harpoon, but we lost it in a manta ray later. At this reading, there are many manta ray in the Gulf cruising about with our harpoons in their hinds. We also wanted one of the Nerit canoes to take back, for they are light and shallow draft, ideal for collecting in lagoons and seaworthy, even in rough water. But no one would sell us a canoe. They came from too far away and were too well loved. Some very old ones were solid with braces and patches. It was dusk when we came back to the Western Flyer, and the deck was filled with waiting little boys holding mashed and mangled specimens of all kind. We bought what we needed then, and we bought a lot of things we didn't need. The boys had waited a long time for us under the stern eye of a military band, and it was interesting to see how our soldier loved the ragged little boys of La Paz. When they got out of hand or ran too fast over the deck, he cautioned them, but there was none of the bluster of policemen. And we had not been just the little boys, we have joined them, for they were his people, and our great wealth would not have deflected him from them. He wore his automatic, but it was only a badge with no show of force about it. And when he entered the galley or sat with us, he removed the gun belt and hung it up. We liked the tone of his voice he used on the boys. It had dignity and authority, but no bullying quality, and the boys of the town seemed to respect him without fearing him. Once, once, when a little boy practiced the most ancient trick in the list of boys' skullduggery, that of removing a specimen and selling it again, the soldier spoke to him shortly with contempt, and that boy lost his standing and even his friends. One boy had a light harpoon, a fish which looked something like a puffer, a gray and black fish with a large flat head. When we wished to buy it, he refused, saying that a man had commissioned him to get this fish, and he was to receive 10 centavos for it because the man wanted to poison a cat. This was the botete, and our first experience with it. It is though in La Paz that the poison concentrates in the liver, and this part is used to poison small animals and even flies. We did not make this test, but we found Botete everywhere in the swarm shallow waters of the Gulf. Probably he is the most prevalent fish in all lagoons and eelgrass flats. He lies on the bottom, and his marking makes him nearly invisible. Sometimes he lies in a small cleared place in eelgrass or in a slight depression on the silt bottom, which indicates, but does not prove, that he has a fairly permanent resting place to which he returns. When one is wading in the shallows, the botet, the botiti, lies quiet until he is nearly stepped on before he streaks away, drawing a cloud of disturbed mud after him. In the press of collecting and persevering, we neglected to dissect the stomach of this fish, so we do not know what he eats. The literature on Botete is scattered and hard to come by. Members of his genus having his poisonous qualities are all distributed all over the world where there are no shallows of warm water. Since this fish is very dangerous to eat and is so widely found, it is curious that so little has been written about it. Eating him almost invariably causes death and agony. If he were rare, it would be understandable why he has been so little discussed. But more has been written about some of the southern fishes of the great depths than of this deadly little botete. We were fascinated with him and took a number of specimens. Following are some of the few reports available on his nature and misdemeanors. We still do not know whether he kills flies. From here, we learn in at least two or three suborders the flesh nearly always is not only thin, hard, often bitter, and usually unpalatable, but also contains poisonous alkaloids. These produce the disease known as sigurturia, in which the nervous system is attacked and violent gastric disturbances, paralysis, and death may follow. On page 423, he discussed the ballastair, the triggerfish, such as the Gulf percarium. Although seen in fish markets throughout the Orient, none of the Bestidae are much used as human food. In some localities of the Philippines, those of moderate size are eaten, but their sale should be forbidden as their flesh is always more or less poisonous. In such places as Cuba and the Mauritius, they are not allowed in markets as they are known to cause sigillria. Francis Day says Dr. Mariner, at Mauritius, considers that the poisonous flesh acts primarily on the nervous tissue of the stomach, causing violent spasms of the organ and shortly afterwards of all the muscles in the body. The frame becomes whacked with spasms, the tongue thickened, and the eyes fixed, the breathing laborious, and the patient expires in a paroxysm of extreme suffering. The first remedy to be given is a strong anemic, and subsequently oils and demulcents to array irritability. In his account of the backboned animals of the Abyssinia, Repul states that this fish is very common in the Red Sea, where it is often brought to market, although pilgrims who do not know the quality of the flesh will buy it. He goes on to say that as a whole of the Bestidae not only have a bad taste, but are also unwholesome as food. Referring to this other fish on 479, I'm not saying the taxonomical name of it because it'll just take me too long, but I'll try anyways. Pterodontidae. Oh, that's pretty easy. Here he uses the name batite or botote as used in most Philippine languages. This dangerous group of fishes, he says, is widely distributed in warm seas all over the world and is common throughout the Philippines. Although most people are more or less aware of the poisonous properties of the flesh, it is eaten in practically every Philippine fishing village, and not a year goes by without several deaths from this cause. A Japanese investigator has studied carefully the alkaloid present in the fish of the Pterodontidae and finds it to be very near to a muscarine, the active poisonous principle of this other fish and other fungi. It is tasteless, odorless, and a very poisonous crystalline alkaloid. He goes on to state that the natives consider the gallbladder, the milt, and the eggs to be particularly poisonous, but in La Paz it was the liver which was thought to be the most poisonous part. Only the liver was used to poison animals and flies, although this might be because the liver was more attractive as bait than other portions. He continues on page 488 concerning pterodon, the Medical Journal of Australia, under the date of December 1st, 1923, tells of two Malays who ate the species of the pterodon, although warned of the danger. They ate at noon with no serious effects, but on eating some for supper, they were taken violently ill, one dying in an hour and the other about 3 hours later. Of the Diodonte on page 503, the fishes of this family have a well-deserved reputation for being poisonous, and their flesh should never be eaten. Botote is sluggish, fairly slow, unarmored, and not very clever at either concealment, escape, or attack. It is amusing but valueless to speculate the anthropomorphologically in anthropomorphically in the chicken egg manner regarding the relationship between his habits and his poison. Did he develop poison in his flesh as a protection in lieu of speed and cleverness, or being poisonous as a quite unattractive was able to let himself go, quote unquote, to abandon speed and cleverness? The protected human soon loses his power of defense and attack. Perhaps Botote, needing neither brains nor tricks nor techniques to protect himself, except from a man who wants to poison a cat, has become a frump. In the evening, Tiny returned to the Western Flyer, having collected some specimens of this other fish, but since he made no notes in the field, he was unable or unwilling to designate the exact collecting station. His items seemed to have no unusual qualities, but to be members of the common species so widely distributed throughout the world. We were to sail in the early morning, and that night we walked a little in the dim lighted streets of La Paz and wondered why so much of the Gulf was familiar to us, why this town had a home feeling. We had never seen a town which even looked like La Paz, and yet coming to it was like returning rather than visiting. Some quality there is in the whole Gulf that trips a trigger of recognition, so that in fantastic and exotic scenery one finds oneself nodding and saying inwardly, "Yes, I know." And on the shore the wild doves mourn in the evening, and then there comes a pang, some kind of emotional jar and longing. And if one followed his whispering impulse, he would walk away slowly into the thorny brush, following the call of the doves. Trying to remember the Gulf is like trying to recreate a dream. This is by no means a sentimental thing. It has little to do with beauty and even conscious liking. But the Gulf does draw one, and we have talked to rich men who own boats who can go anywhere they will. Regularly, they find themselves sucked into the Gulf, and since we have returned, there is always in the back of our minds the positive drive to go back again. If it were lush and rich, one could understand the pull, but it is fierce and hostile and sullen. The stone mountains pile up in the sky, and there is little fresh water, but we know we must go back if we live, and we don't know why. Late at night, we sat on the deck. They were pumping water out of the hold of the trading boat, preparing her to float and flounder away to the Guamas for more merchandise. But La Paz was asleep. Not a soul moved in the streets. The tide turned and swung us around, and in the channel, the ebbing tide whispered against our hull, and we heard the dogs of La Paz barking at night. Woo! See, I wonder if I'm tired. I think I'm tired. I'm gonna keep going because we need to be tired. You know? Yeah. Multi-million-dollar calls about release dates. This ain't the neighborhood pulling it up. I got a lot of money, but a lot in this fight for the word biz. What y'all niggas gonna be? It's easy to take yo. I'm happy to give myself up. Hello, neighbor. Good evening, girl. Sorry to disturb you. Can I show you to the paparazzi? Hello, how do you? What? Oh, hell no. What? There she is. Oh, she's beautiful. All right, don't. Oh my goodness. Oh. So there's a husband spoiler. It's a resident family. And watcher. Okay, you can close. We're done. You can close it. Thank you. Oh, that's so crazy. Go. Fun, it's fun, Lily, Hana. Go, it's okay, Hana. Nada, nem nada para frente da minha casa. Okay. Okay, you ready? Good evening. Oh, wow. This is how to scratch your cookie nonchalantly at school. Oh my god. Oh, you think you're yeah, no worries. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I didn't. Yeah, no. Here you go. You're in pain. I can tell by what you're saying. Whoa. Squidward. God, I really, really, really don't like Kid Cudi. I do not like Kid Cudi at all. Yeah. Essence in there? Oh. All right, guys. Okay. Locked in, locked in. We're gonna get really tired soon here. Okay. March 23rd. Okay, whatever. We sailed in the morning. The mustached old pilot came aboard and streeted us out, then bowed deeply and stepped into the launch which had followed us. The sea was calm and very blue, almost black blue, as we turned northward along the coast. We wished to stop near San Jose Island as our next collecting station. It was good to be underway again and good to be out from under the steady eyes of the ubiquitous little boys who waited interminably for us to do something amusing. In mid-afternoon, we came to Anchorage at Amorataja, Bay on the southwest tip of San Jose Island. A small, dark islet caught our attention as we came in, for although the day was bright, this islet called Cayo on the map looked black and mysterious. We had a feeling that something strange and dark had happened there, or that it was the ruined work of men's hands. Cayo is only a quarter of a mile long and 100 yards wide. Its northern end is a spur, and its southern end a flat plateau about 40 feet high. Even in the distance, it had a quality which we called burned. One knows there will be a few animals on the burned coast, that animals will not like it, will not be successful there. Even the algae will be lost, like people be like a lost colonist. Whether or not this is the result of a deadly chemistry, we cannot say. But we can say that it is possible after long collecting to recognize the shore which is burned, even if it is so far away that details cannot be seen. Cayo lay about a mile and a half from our anchorage and seemed to be black in even the air around it. This was the first time that the sea cow could have been a great service to us. It was for just, oh, maybe they're talking about like a speedboat or something. It was for just such occasions that we'd brought it. We were kind to it that day, selfishly, of course. We said nice things about it, and we put it tenderly on the stern of the skiff, pretending to ourselves that we expected it to run, and we didn't dream it would not run, but it would not. We rowed the boat and the sea cow to Cayo Inlet. There is so much that is strange about this inlet that We will set much of it down. It is nearly all questions, but perhaps some reading this may know the answers and tell us. There is no landing place at all. Approaches are strewn with large sea-rounded boulders, which even in fairly still waters would beat the bottom out of a boat. On its easterly side, the one we approached, a cliff rises in the back of the rocky beach, and there are a number of shallow caves in the cliffside. Set in the great boulders in the intertidal zone, there are large iron rings and lengths of big chain, but so rusted and disinterrogated that they came off in our hands. Also set in the cliff 6 to 8 feet above the beach are iron rings with loops 8 inches in diameter. They look very old, but the damp air of the Gulf and the rapid oxidation caused by it makes it impossible to say exactly how old they are. In the shallow caves in the cliff, there are evidences of many fires having been built and piled about the fireplaces, some old and some fresh, were not only thousands of clamshells, but turtle shells too, as though these animals had been brought here to be smoked. A heap of fairly fresh diced turtle meat lay beside one of the fireplaces. The mysterious quality of all this lies here. There are no clams in the immediate vicinity, and turtles do not greatly abound. There's no wood, whatever, on the island, which to build the fires, it would have to be brought here. There is no water whatsoever, and once arrived, there is no anchorage. Why people would bring clams and turtles and wood and water to an inlet where there was no protection, we do not know. A mile and a half away, they could have beached easily and have found both wood and water. It is a riddle we cannot answer, just as we can think of no reason for the big iron rings. They could not have been fastening a boat to it, since there is no safe water for a boat to lie in, and no cove protection from wind and the storm. We were very curious about this. We climbed the cliff on a trail that was well beaten into a crevice. On the flat top, found a sparse growth of brown grass and some cactus. Nothing more. On the southernmost end of the cliff sat one large black crow, who shrieked at us with dislike, and when we approached flew off and disappeared in the direction of San Jose Island. The cliffs were light buff in color, and the grass light brown. It is impossible to say why distance made Cayo look black. Boulders and fixed stone of the reef were of a reddish igneous rock, and the island, like the whole region, was of volcanic origin. I kind of want to look up Cayo, the island, now. Cayo Islet. Real life. Yeah, here we go. Island, Caribbean? Cuba. They weren't in Cuba. Gulf. It's because we were on Getty Images, bro. There's a state park, best hidden beach in Florida. Okay, well, they definitely weren't all the way in Florida. Kind inlet, the log of the Sea of Cortez. Location. Here we go. Isla Cayo. Oh, it's not really that uninhabited part of La Paz. Interesting. Are there any pictures of it? This is kind of cool. Real life. Is this it? Interesting. Very cool. Okay. Collecting on the rocks we found, as we knew we would, a sparse of sparse and unhappy fauna. The animals were very small. Heliester, the sun star, of which there were a few, was small and pale in color. There were anemones, a few sea cumbers, and a few sea rabbits. The one animal which seemed to like Kaio was a Sally Lightfoot. These beautiful crabs crawled on the rocks and dominated the life of the region. We took a few worm-like snails and some serpulid worms, two or three types of snails, and a few isopods and beach hoppers. The tide came up and endangered our boat, which we had balanced on top of a boulder, and we rowed back toward the Western Flyer, one of us in the stern pulling with quiet fury on the starting rope of the Sea Cow. We wished we had left it dangling by its propeller on one of the cliff rings, and its evil and mysterious Magnino would have liked that too. As soon as we pulled away, Kaio looked black again, and we hope someone can tell us something about that island. I guess to this day, there's still not a lot to talk about, huh? Back on the Western Flyer, we asked Tex to take the Sea Cow apart to the tiniest screw and find out the truth, once and for all, whether its failure was metaphysical or something which could be fixed. This he did under a deck light. When he put it together and attached it to the boat, it ran perfectly and went for a cruise with it. Now, at last, we felt we had an outboard motor we could depend on. When uh, quiet we anchored quiet near San Jose Island, and that night we were visited by little black beetle-like flies which bit and left stinging, itching burns. Covering ourselves did not help, for they crawled down inside our bedding and bit us unmercifully. Being unable to sleep, we talked, and Tiny told us a little bit about his career, which, if even part of it is true, it is one of the most decoratively disreputable sagas we had ever heard. It is with sadness that we do not include some of it, but certain members of the general public are able to keep from all of the treatise on biology unsurpassed in our experience. The great literature of this kind is kept vocal by the combined efforts of the Puritans and the postal regulations, and so the saga of Tiny must remain unwritten. Huh. 14. This will be the last page. The beach was hot and yellow. We swam and then walked along the sand and went inland along the ridge between the beach and a large mangrove-edged lagoon beyond. On the lagoon side of the ridge there were thousands of burrows, presumably of large land crabs, but it was hopeless to dig them out. The shores of the lagoon teemed with little bubbling fiddler crabs and estuarian snails. Here we could smell the mangrove flowers without the foul root smell, and the odor was fresh and sweet, like that of new cut grass. From where we waded, there was a fine picture still reflecting water and the fringing green mangroves against the burnt red, brown, and distant mountains, all like some fantastic Dware drawing of a pressed and embattled heaven. The air was hot and still, and the lagoon rippleless. Now and then the surface was ringed as some lagoon fish came to the air. It was a curious, quiet resting place, and perhaps because of the quiet we heard in our heads, the children singing in the church of La Paz, we did not collect strongly or very efficiently, but rather we half dozed through the day, thinking of old things, each one in himself. And later we discussed manners of thinking and methods, thinking speculation which is not stylish anymore. On a day like this, the mind goes outward and touches in all directions. We discussed intellectual methods and approaches, and we thought that through inspection of thinking technique, a kind of purity of approach might be consciously achieved. That teleological or quote unquote is thinking might be substituted in part for the usual cause and effect methods. The hazy gulf, with its changes of light and shape, was rather like us, trying to apply our thoughts, but finding them always pushed and swayed by our bodies and our needs and our satires. Yeah, satires, satiaties? I don't know. It might be well here to set down some of the discussions of the non theological thinking. During the Depression, there were and still are, and I guess we'll figure that out next time. Yeah, this book is a lot more dense than normal people. I mean, there's a lot less dialogue and the font is way smaller. I do want to look up what this word is, though. Satietize. What? What? Satiety? Or gratified to or beyond capacity. The revulsion or disgust caused by overindulgence or excess. So it's like a derivative of satiate. Okay, so I was right. Of course I'm right. Of course I'm right. All right. A little tired. Maybe I just need to get in bed. Got this little hair here. And this one too. Where is it? There we go. All right, goodbye. I remember Moodang. I do remember Moodang.